Hey Jackals! Lately I've been learning Unity, and in the videos that I've been watching, they use a motion graphics that looks kind of nice, and I was wondering if I can make it in DaVinci Resolve. And yes, you can. And the graphics in question is this one. It'll pop somewhere around this part. So we have an ellipse, we have a line, and we have a rectangle. So we'll do that in DaVinci Resolve. Now let's get digital. I'll just show you how this can be done, and I'll leave all of the flashiness up to you. So right click in the media pool. If you don't have it open, open it, right click, make a new fusion composition and put it onto the timeline. Then select it and go into the fusion page. Now this is the whole effect. What's good about this effect is that you can actually position the ellipse and the line will move with it. Except in this case, I've made it so the ellipse should be on the left side of the rectangle, and as for the rectangle, you can change the width and the height, and the line will stay in the middle of the height rectangle. At the moment, we can't really position the center position because that's how I've set it up. But if you wanted to, you could also change the parameters a little bit and you would be able to do that as well. So I have this final composition shown on the left side, and we'll make a new one on the right side. So what we need is an ellipse, rectangle, and a line. So let's add an ellipse, we'll add rectangle, and the line is made with a polygon. Now depending on the order that you position them, you'll get different result. The most sense it makes for the line to be at the bottom, so that is why I have it here. Otherwise, let me just switch it, Ctrl T, you'll see that the line is actually on the top of the ellipse. If you want to be able to change the color, which I'm sure you want to be able to do, that is why I always use the backgrounds. So let's add those. And I'll just position the rectangle to be at this point. We'll simply connect them, and now I can display them on the right side. So the ellipse can be full, so I'll leave it as is. We can change the color and scale it down. Now what you can do here is type in equals in the width or the height and connect the plus to the height or the width, and you can now change just the height or just the width, and the ellipse will be always of the same size. And if you need to, you can also uncheck the solid and have this as a border, but if you do this, then the line will be visible below the ellipse, so that is why I've left it as a solid. I'll do the polygon last. Now let's make the rectangle and display it, change the color, and for the rectangle we don't want it to be fully visible, so we'll just adjust the border by a tiny bit. We could also change the corner radius if we wanted to, but I'll leave it as is. So now we can simply connect this with merge nodes. As I've said, the polygon needs to be in the back, so I'll simply use Ctrl T. So now the polygon is at the back and the ellipse is on top of it. Do one more, and the last background and the merge. This is just how I do my fusion composition so that I know everything is in 1080p. So if you do it like this, this has to be in the background. Ctrl T. If I display it, this should be black. You can simply change the alpha to 0, so this is now transparent, and you can put it on any video clip that you want, or an image. Now we have the ellipse. Let's position it to somewhere outside, and we'll be taking the center position of the ellipse and connecting it to the rectangle. Let's just take the center position of the rectangle for now, and we'll do that with the polygon. So with the polygon selected, you just need to make 2 points. You don't need to connect them to anything. They can be like this. Select this button or this icon, so you select all of the points. You'll then need to right click, go to polygon 2, polyline 2 in my case, go to publish and publish points. You should now see both points, or at least the points that you have selected. Now in this case, the points are fixed and you don't want that. So what I'll do is I'll simply put in equals. This will make an expression As you can see, this is now point. It doesn't have anything at the start, so I can use point 0, which is here, and this is the y-axis. So this is now my starting position. I don't want that. I want this to be the center of the ellipse. So with the ellipse selected, I will simply pin it. Then go back to the polygon. I'll now put the mouse cursor here and use the plus and connect it to the center X value. But this is not correct because this takes the whole center position. I just want the X position. So this is actually now ellipse 2 dot center, which is correct. And to get the X value, we'll simply type in dot capital X. So we now have this position. And to get the Y position, it's the same. I'll simply copy this value, paste it in, and change the capital X to capital Y. So we have this done. And to connect this point 1 to the center of the rectangle, we'll do the same thing. So I'll pin the rectangle, go to the polygon, type in equals, position the cursor here, click on the plus, go to the center X, put dot X, copy this line, paste it, and add a capital Y. So now the line is connected. We don't see the polygon because I haven't changed the border width, which is what we have to do. So we have this done, but now if you do any changes in the width or the height of the ellipse, that looks okay. We can also move it up or down, and this will move with it. Now let's look at the rectangle. If I change the center position, this also works. And if I change the width and height, this should not make any changes, and it does not. Now if you want the line to be like this, what you can do is take this rectangle, so we can copy it, Ctrl C, right click, paste instance, okay, now we have it. Will the instance the solid, so that we can make this polygon a solid, because currently it's the same as the original. So now this one is solid and this one is still like this. And in this case, what we want to be able to do is to mask this part of the polygon, which is inside the rectangle, out. Ideally, we would connect it to the mask input of the merge, but this would affect the ellipse. So what we can do is add another merge node. Simply add a background node. The background will be in the back, so I'll just simply lower the alpha to 0 so it's transparent. And now we can affect the polygon. So I'll connect it here and simply select invert, but in this case I also have to the instance invert. So the instance it, and now when we move the ellipse, it moves like this. So you can position it in any way that you want. And as for the rectangle, if you move it, it will also position itself how you want it. And now in case you want this line to be fixed and that it doesn't reference the center, as I've done it here, I'll simply show you in this example that I have prepared. So in this example, the left one, as you can see, the line is always connected to the left side of the rectangle and the midpoint. So in that case, in the polygon, let me just unpin the nodes that I don't need and pin the one I do. So I'll select this new polygon, the one that we just made, and compare it to this one, the polygon one. So let's look at the expressions. The point 1 over the point 0, it has the center ellipse x and y, which is the same as this one. And for the point 1, I've used the rectangle 1 center dot x position, which is the center, but then I've also used the width of the rectangle. So we have the rectangle 1 width, which is this, the whole width, and to get just a half of it, you need to divide it by 2. That's what I did. And inside here I've simply used 0.5, which is the halfway point of the screen. And that's why if you move this rectangle up or down, the line always stays in the center. And also if I move this left to right, the positioning breaks. So if you want to get fancy and adjust this how you want it to, you'll have to also play around with some of the math options. Now the reason why I've used the transform here in the rectangle, let's just go to this example on the right side, the new one. If you want to animate this, I'll simply select the rectangle and click away once so that we don't see the line. With the animation, we'll want to adjust the position and the length. So let me adjust the length. Maybe if it's at 0, let's just see where it goes from. So it goes from this point, anti-clockwise direction. Maybe you would want the position to be at 0.5, so it starts here. So you could adjust the position how you want. But this always goes in the anti-clockwise direction, and to make it go clockwise, I'll simply add a transform node here, and we'll flip the horizontal. And now if I go back to the rectangle, but in this case the position will now go from this point and it will go in the clockwise direction. So now what we need to do is simply copy this transform and also put it here. So I'll do just that, and this should fix the issue. So now if we make any changes to the rectangle, this should now work as we want it to. Now this is basically it. If you want to get fancy with the effect and use more ellipses, maybe outline of the ellipses, you should do that here. But to then actually move the whole ellipse composition, I suggest to use the transform and actually use the transform node to move the ellipse. But the polygon line should still reference the original ellipse or the outline of the ellipse that you want to use. The only thing that you need to do is to make a macro. I do have a video on how to do that, so I'll simply leave a link. And one thing that you can also do is to use this line and instead of a polygon, use a paint node. And I also have a video on how to do that, how to connect polygons, or in this case also a paint node with lines. So what you'll achieve with this step is take an image. You can resize it to get it to 1080p automatically. If you don't want to, you can skip this node. And you'll use the transform node to rotate it automatically based on the ellipse position. So let me select this ellipse. In this case, I have to display this one because it's a little different. And if I position it like this, you don't really see any changes in the curve angle. But if I display this one, you can see that the line actually changes and the curve angle changes with the ellipse position from the origin to the ending point. So in this case, what I've done is I've simply used a paint node. I've also done 2 points, as you can see, 1, 2, same as before with the polygons. You can see the points here. I've also used the same kind of math to connect the line. And the only difference is that the paint node can use images. So in this case, under the brush controls, I've selected image. I've selected the tool and typed in the tool name. If you just use an image to get the idea, you can type in media in 1. So let's do that, media in 1. The curve is a little bit bigger, but it doesn't change the position. So it doesn't matter how this line is. As you can see, it is constantly the same. That's why I have transform 2. And why I do have the transform 2 is because in the transform 2, if you'll watch the video on how to make custom lines, and also I'll link another video so that you can get a better idea, is in the transform, you'll right click on the center position and click path. This will connect this path to the transform. And then if you need to, you can flip this. Let me zoom in. This flips the orientation of the image. If you need to do that, you can do it. And then in the angle, you'll also right click it, go to modify width. I can't click it because I've already done this. And you'll go to path heading and select heading. And then the modifier tab will open up. And as you can see, the heading is here, but you won't be adjusting anything. But if you do, you can see that this actually affects the angle. However, you won't be doing anything because the angle is constantly changing based on the line direction. So that is why when you make the changes to the ellipse, this heading also changes. And that's it. Did you like the video? If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. If you have issues how to connect 2 points and maybe also use an image to go along the path that you made, go watch the previous videos that I've linked. And if you want to see more DaVinci Resolve and video editing content, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, jackals, keep it digital.